Hey, Joe.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, fine, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming down. Welcome to Tasty Humans. For everybody that doesn't know who you are, please introduce yourself. Who are you? What do you do?
So I'm Joe Steinwold. I've been in the restaurant business for basically my entire life. And I guess we'll be spending some time talking about it, but it's what I've been doing. And now I started 20 months ago, I started Boga in Dubai, my first location in City Walk. And then 2 months after that, I opened in Business Bay. And 2 months after that, I opened in JBR.
Well, you know, as you and I both know, hospitality people are very special. And so there's something in the blood.
Right.
But where did it start for you then? You said your whole life. So what do you think was the first moment where you were like, this is my calling?
All right. Well, that's so clear. So I bought Ray Kroc's book called Grinding It Out back when I was 15 years old. So that was 50 years ago. And I read it once, and I knew, like, I was so intrigued with the idea that you just have to have a successful restaurant, and then you just duplicate it, and you duplicate it, and you duplicate it, and after that you have 1,000 restaurants. So I said, that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to do it. Sorry. I'm going to do it at the end of my life, and not at the beginning of my life. I'm going to do what Colonel Sanders was 72, Ray Kroc was like 56. I said, I'm going to do the same thing, but it's at the end of my life. So when I went to get into the business, I came out of graduate school in Chicago. I knew I had to end up in Chicago because that's where Ray Kroc was from. And got a job working for a guy by the name of Don Smith, who was a disciple of Ray Kroc.
For those people that don't know who Ray Kroc is.
That's okay. Ray Kroc. Ray Kroc was the guy he wasn't the founder of McDonald's. He says he's the founder, but the McDonald brothers were the founders. He was the guy who took it from one restaurant and duplicated it. So that's what he created. He was a salesman. He was a multi-mixer salesman. And how it happened was he was going out, they were constantly in San Bernardino. They were buying multi-mixers, which were these 5-spindle milkshake machines. And they kept burning out the machines, and they kept ordering more multi-mixers. So he decided to go out to San Bernardino in California to see what are these guys doing. And then he discovered McDonald's. And it was just nuts, right? So he knew he had to buy into that. So that's how, I read that. I was, I got crazy. I worked for a guy by the name of Don Smith, lasted a year there, then went to start my first McDonald's, kind of my burger restaurant as a tribute to Ray Kroc. Because like I said, I knew that I wasn't going to start this chain at the beginning of my life. I was going to do it at the end of my life. So I opened up the first one. It was a tribute to McDonald's. I opened up the second one in Chicago. The first one was in the meatpacking district on the north side of Chicago.
What was it called?
It was called Muskie's.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was your idea behind it?
So just to basically say thank you to the McDonald brothers and Ray Kroc. Yeah. That's all it was. It wasn't, of course I wanted to make a living, but it was, a red and white tile. I put the tile up on the, it was a single unit building. I put the tile up. I copied their French fry recipe. I got, I was in the meat packing, so I was getting fresh meat. I was getting the buns fresh. I was making the ice cream for the milkshake machine, for the milkshakes. So that's basically, and it did very well.
And how old were you?
26.
Oh, that's quite a
It's
quite a thing to do at that age so far.
So what happened? There's a crazy story. So I'm going to jump up like 15 years. But
go ahead.
So I'm in. I was born and raised in Canada, in Montreal, Canada. So I think I was there. My parents, died 7 months apart, and I was in Montreal, and I'm sitting in a restaurant in Saint Laurent Street, and I see a plaque on the wall. So I go over there, And it's my grandfather's name that says that he's the guy who started this restaurant. Now, my father never told me that his father was in the restaurant business.
Mm-hmm.
So I come running to my sister, who's like the genius between the three kids. And I say, Grandpa Pod, was he the guy? Is he the guy who was in this restaurant business? Sure enough, he was. And I said, why Dad never told us? So when I think it is in my blood.
Mm-hmm.
You had mentioned at the very beginning of the podcast that it could be in your blood. And for me, I think it is, and it was. And so I rejected actually going into my father's businesses, stayed in Chicago and opened up Boga, asked him for a loan. And I got another guy to put up the other half of the money. So we ended up in partnership. Mm-hmm. And I opened up the first Muskie's Burgers place, Muskie's Hamburgers, world's tastiest hamburger. That was the sign. I did well, opened up a second unit, and then went off to Saudi Arabia, which is another story.
Because everyone wants to come up with their hook. So what was it, like you said, the world's tastiest burger? So it was like, how did you back that up? What were you doing to your burgers to make them? Because again, when people say these things, it's like, okay, we see the hook and we go, yeah, of course. Some people want to go, I'll put that to the test.
Right.
What was it you thought was so special about your burgers?
Nothing. To be honest, it was pure marketing, but it was fresh meat because it was, we were in the meat packing district, but really nothing. Mm-hmm. To be perfectly honest, it was just, like I said, I did this as a tribute to Ray Kroc and the McDonald brothers. And I opened up the second one, and our milkshakes were amazing. We had we made our own ice cream. It was very high butter fat. I don't know, it was probably 2,000 calories per milkshake, but it was insanely delicious. The French fries were tasty. They were fresh cut. Everything was fresh, right? So it's the way the McDonald brothers did it from the 1950s. What Kroc did was he overprocessed everything. Mm-hmm. So just for consistency. And I think that being inconsistent is being consistent. Mm-hmm. Right?
I get you. Yeah.
In a way, right? So that really proves authenticity.
Yes, there's a problem with perfect food.
Right.
Because
it's perfect.
Right. But that doesn't make sense because we all know it's weird as a consumer. It's the same way that you have the issues in supermarkets where the chickens all need to be the same size. And I know you were in the chicken business, so we're not sort of getting into this chicken conversation maybe later on, but it's where the apples all need to be the same size. The bananas all need to be everything needs to be the same size because you don't want to see the big one and the small one because everyone wants the big one, value for money, everything like this. But so the food is being, what's the right word, manipulated in order to all be consistent. But like you said, we all kind of know there's a problem with that, but then we all want the consistency visually anyway.
Correct. No, absolutely. I mean, and I think that the more we get away from that,
yes,
the better.
The imperfections of the perfection.
Exactly.
Yeah. The thing I think, there you go. No problem.
Sorry, guys.
That's all right.
Let me put that back.
That'll do. But the thing is that I think what people don't realize about McDonald's was the kitchen design. That I'm right with that, correct? Which is they had such an efficient setup that's how the kind of QSR thing started,
right, exactly.
Where other restaurants at the time couldn't do it. So they were being able to mass produce the food in a way that could get it out. And that's what McDonald's did so well, wasn't it?
Absolutely. So if you think about it, in the 1950s, you went to a restaurant, you would sit down at a table, the waiter or waitress would bring you the menu, bring you some water, at least in North America. bring you water, bring you the menus. They'd let you sit for 10 minutes, kind of figure it out. She'd come back or he'd come back. And you know, they would take your order, and then it would go. She would walk it back. She would walk the order back to the kitchen, and the guy on the line would make the food. And 15 minutes later, they'd bring it out. And so, what was genius about the McDonald brothers, which is, you know, they were engineers, and they figured out that you can create an assembly line, so that what you do is when the customer orders his food, you give him his food with the change, with his change. So in order to do that, you had to be busy. And in order to be busy, the price had to be low enough to create that capacity, right? Because you needed capacity to make money.
Yeah, volume.
Right? So you got rid of some of the labor, right, by the waiters, and you created an assembly line to bring the food out, which was genius at the time, right? And now I think the evolutionary step now is to have the assembly done by either mechanically or robotics, and have the whole system. You know, you replace the waiter or waitress with an app, with an ordering system, which is already existing today.
Yeah. So. I think it is McDonald's that are already starting to have fully automized outlets.
Ordering.
No. Are they not there yet?
No, they're not even close. They're not going to be the guys that do that. No, you know, the carriage maker at the turn of the previous 2 centuries back, when they had the car, the carriage makers were not the guys who came out with the automobile. Right? So, and it never is. It's always the guy that's thinking outside the box, you know, who figures out a new way to do things.
It's kind of a gripe of mine with hospitality is there are people in tech that are doing things so one thing that's happening at the moment a lot is QR code payments. Now, QSR is different to going into a restaurant, but now you go into restaurants and cafes and you see the QR code and you scan it and you pay. What you've done is you've eliminated the waiter, waitress bringing over the bill, asking you for the bill. Can I get you one? You know, that kind of closure of the service. And I was approached by a company a while back to put them into some restaurants I was running. And I was very against it. And I'm not some like old school technophobe or something. No, I get it. But I asked the guy how he designed it. And he said that he was in a restaurant and he needed to leave. He had kids and he needed to get out as quickly as possible. But the restaurant was really, really busy and it took ages to get the bill. So because he built apps and he built, you know, these sort of applications and everything, he thought there has to be an easier way to get your bill. And that kind of frustrates me because it's like, well, you're not a hospitality person trying to improve hospitality. You're a tech person trying to get everybody to be able to leave quicker. I don't know. Am I right or wrong? What do you think?
You're partially right, partially wrong.
Okay.
So I see it a little differently. The guy was trying to solve the convenience problem. He was in a rush. He needed to get out, and he couldn't get out because the restaurant was busy. And we faced the same problem at Boga, which is the same reason why I'm also in the process of creating an app so that you can order, pay, and we can bring you out the food. You're solving a hospitality problem by upgrading convenience, right? You have to look at every reason why someone comes to your restaurant, right? It's an experience, it's the food, it's the marketing, it's the 100 different reasons, right? It's so you have to deal step by step with each of those potential barriers, right? And if you can eliminate a barrier, you improve the likelihood of a guest of increasing a transaction.
I suppose, yeah. I suppose my sort of angle is how much are we diluting the dining experience, you know, when it comes to this question of what happens with the team, the service, the future, you know. It's just, I don't know, maybe I'm too much of an old school purist.
You're a traditionalist.
I'm a traditionalist of a sequence of service.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
No, absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
Maybe
but I think that's that works when you're, when you go to a restaurant for an experience.
Yes.
Right? So you're going to a high-end place. That, what you're talking about is where it fits. And it's not in a QSR, but it's in the middle. There is where it becomes blurred.
Yeah.
Where what you're talking about becomes blurred. And you want to be a traditionalist. And that's good, but it's at the higher end now.
And I think, and
it happens because
you're right. Yeah, it's
the cost of labor, not necessarily in the Middle East, but the cost of labor forces you to make that move, right? Because you can't stay in business if you're not profitable.
No, of course.
So profit ensures your future. So providing that level of service that you talk about can only be done at the higher end restaurants today, and it will continue going in that direction.
Yeah, I think now I'm actually thinking about how much the labor cost always is on P&Ls and how I used to say to people, if you don't want to be replaced by a robot, stop acting like one. When it comes to poor service and non-personality driven, and the human employee's way of turning up late and leaving early, and it's like you're walking yourselves off a cliff, basically.
Right. So I think that when you get rid of that kind of employee and you eliminate, you improve the guest experience, right? Because when you remove the errors, it becomes more impersonal. But
100%.
Yeah.
So I wanted to come sort of back to exiting the 2 burger shops that you opened. What provoked that change happening?
So one of my customers, there was a consulting company, which was like Price Waterhouse, Deloitte and Touche, called Arthur Andersen back in the day. They are no longer in business, but they were originally an accounting firm, a very large accounting firm in the United States. And then, like all the other accounting firms, went into consulting. Price Waterhouse was, Arthur Andersen was one of those. They were based in Chicago. And the head of franchise worldwide for Arthur Andersen was a customer at my burger shop.
Okay.
So, and I didn't know that, of course, but he came to me one day and said, we have this contract with a family that's in the chicken business in Saudi Arabia, who would like to open up a chain of chicken restaurants. And that's how it started. So, they signed me up for a subcontract deal. First, it was downtown Chicago. And so I would go there. It was a 6-month contract, and I had to spend 2 hours or 3 hours in their corporate office writing manuals. But very quickly into the contract, like a month in, I was asked to go visit Saudi Arabia, which was, for a Canadian boy.
And what year was this?
This was 1988.
Wow.
Yeah. So I went there, and it was an upside-down experience, right?
I can imagine, yeah.
So it was a culture shock for me first, because I had no idea. I just knew Montreal, and I knew Chicago, and I knew parts of California.
What was the most shocking thing?
There's a lot of shocking things. But, it was all good. It turned out to be... So I go out there. First of all, they had nobody had a clue of what they were doing. I came back to Chicago, designed a concept, a flow of the restaurant. Basically what the McDonald brothers did. It was very easy for me to create a process and designed the first restaurant to sell 300 chickens a day. We sold like 5,000 or 6,000.
Wow.
We started with 10 employees. It was very successful. It did very well in Saudi Arabia because it took basically a barbecue chicken that's their version of barbecue, which would take it, would be something that the family would eat on a Friday afternoon after prayer, which would take hours to cook, and it was a whole process, and we were able to provide that experience within a few minutes. So, it was very successful. And we, today the chain's doing over $1 billion dirham a year in business. And I worked for the family for 33 years.
Wow.
So, yeah, good family, very good family.
And so I suppose my next logical question is how did you go from burgers and barbecue chicken into clean? What was the moment where that happened for you? Because that's an interesting switch.
Yep. So I think I was in my mid-40s, where I was on 20 milligrams of Crestor or Lipitor, which is a cholesterol medicine.
Okay.
And I was taking a baby tablet, aspirin for blood, thinning out my blood. And I had a little bit of blood pressure and, stories. Mm-hmm. And my father passed away of cancer. My grandfather had cancer. My grandmother had cancer. There was some of my aunts and uncles passed away of cancer. And I'm like, is there a chance that, I'm going to get cancer too? So I started to explore. I went on this journey of exploration of trying to figure out what it is, how do I avoid it? How do I not end up like my elders? Came to the conclusion eventually, this was a period of time. It wasn't just like it wasn't a 6-month deal, but came to the conclusion that food had something to do with why cancer rates and heart disease were so high. And it was just me thinking that, right? But that's how I internalized it.
What was your diet at the time? What were you eating? What did you? I'll just be brutal. What did you look like? What was your lifestyle then? Because this is going to be early 2000s?
No, it was before that. So it was, I guess it was, yeah. It was 2000s, yeah. Early 2000s, yes, you're right. What was my diet like? Oh man, it was anything I wanted to eat.
Yeah.
There was there was nothing, I didn't hold back on anything. But as I got educated, as I got enlightened, went on that journey, I became a vegan.
Okay.
And after 3 months, went to the doctor in the States, and they said, "Oh, whatever you're doing, your blood work looks good. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." I told them I'm a vegan.
Because this would have been when being a vegan was very new and very unheard of in mainstream restaurant business and everything. Because back then, God, I'd only been a manager for probably a year or so in the early 2000s, where even vegetarian was like 3 dishes in the menu.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And you kind of just went,
Right. Well, the Western menu, 3 dishes.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. For me, it was, I did another 3 months, went back to the States, got my blood checked. They took me off all the medicine.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like, oh, that really works. So I was a vegan for X amount of years. Still hadn't thought about, Boga had not entered my consciousness, but I was feeling good. Then one day I remember, I ate a piece of meat. 5 years or 8 years, I was a vegan for, I don't know how many years, 5 to 8 years, and that I ate a piece of meat, and that was the end of being a vegan.
Sorry.
So that's what happened. So then, for me, I'll talk. I shouldn't say, but the company, the chicken chain in Saudi Arabia, it was, you get to a point once you pass like $100 million, $120 million in business, it's just rinse and repeat, right? It's open 10 more restaurants, introduce a new, cheesy chicken sandwich or whatever it's going to be, and that's not my sauce. That wasn't my vibe. That didn't get me excited. So, of course, I trained someone to replace me. That person's still on the job today, doing a great job. And but that had zero interest for me. Like, it didn't get me excited. And I came with the idea back in 2015 to start this idea of clean food. It didn't start as clean food. It just started as healthy food. Mm-hmm. But then, when you start thinking about what is healthy, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Right? So is it healthy if is this healthier than that? So you start that way. And then once you boil it down, you end up with, basically, you have to eat the less processed, the more pure, the better. Right?
Yeah, I think the healthy food movement, and I don't mean movement as in political, I just mean as in shift, is things like breakfast muffins.
Right.
Where
Blueberry muffins,
where you go back 20 years and your blueberry muffin was this very healthy poppy seed.
Right,
I'm eating a poppy seed,
I'm eating poppies. I'm eating a blueberry.
Yeah, and you're having these muffins instead of a bacon sandwich, do you know what I mean? Or something like this. And you're healthy. But now that particular blueberry muffin is like the bacon sandwich probably had less calories in it. You know what I mean?
No, that's exactly right. So it's all choices, right?
Yeah.
So what I wanted to do, like, because it comes to a point where you can go all the way to the pendulum swinging all the way from the bacon sandwich to, a piece of lettuce, for example. But you need customers, because if you want to pull off your idea, you have this passionate idea. If you're going to pull it off, that piece of lettuce is not enough to maintain profitability, to fill up your store, to be able to carry on your crazy, passionate idea. So what you need is that piece of lettuce has got to be craveable. And once you start with the craveable component, right, from the bacon and cheese sandwich is craveable, right? So you start from the other side, from that piece of lettuce, can you make something craveable? So you're going to give up 100% purity for something that still is pure, but is better than the bacon sandwich. It's better than the blueberry muffin. And, it's not as good as that piece of lettuce, but it's not far away. You're in the ballpark. You're in the vicinity.
So how did Boga start to take shape?
So, the idea was just first make everything from scratch, because I came to the conclusion that you really have to do it all from scratch as much as possible, because you cannot be healthy if your food doesn't start clean.
Yeah.
Right? So when I first started Boga, actually I started in Saudi Arabia, which is another story. The chain got stolen from me. But when I first started and opened up the first 5 restaurants, what happened was we didn't make everything from scratch, but it was a process. We were growing lettuce. We were growing the herbs. So we were growing cilantro. We were growing mint. We were growing basil upstairs in the restaurants, and that was successful. And that was thinking outside the box, by the way, because for a restaurant guy to do a farm, that's way outside the box. That's not a comfort level for any restaurant guy. Also,
in a climate that doesn't favor farms,
right? But it's not even that. Like, the mentality of a restaurant guy is to think inside the box.
Okay.
You do that. You even say you're the traditionalist, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So you're always thinking. You're always thinking inside the box. To go outside the box. So have passion for your crazy idea. Think outside. Constantly keep thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
Okay. Embrace the fear of being outside the box, right? So it meant for me, doing every recipe, every sauce, every dressing, the bread, we weren't there yet, but we were getting there. Okay. No, I can't say we were getting there. We were 40% of the way there. It was a journey, right? So, but I didn't say we were clean food. I just said, I was thinking, I wasn't internalizing it as if it's going to be healthy, it's got to be clean.
Yeah.
So, you go on that journey of trying to do each piece until you get to where you've done it all, right? And we're still on that journey.
Yeah. I was going to ask, like, how was the creation process, the barriers where you think, okay, we're going to make so you take a simple sandwich. Do you know what I mean? You go, okay, now we're going to make the bread. So how do I make the bread? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now there's this, and you get all the way out here and you're like, oh, but now there's that. Do you know what I mean? And then I need to do the lettuce and just grow it. So, how we're overcoming so many of the steps to make just one simple
right. No,
sandwich.
you look at every component, right?
Like, so it must have been nuts.
Yeah. So you think about this. So you do the bread. So you have to make the bread. And then you have a sauce. So you have to make the sauce. Then you have the lettuce. So you're growing the lettuce. Then you need tomatoes on there. So you have to contact the farm that's doing hydroponic cherry tomatoes, and you got to go to all the farms to see who has the sweetest, tastiest cherry tomato. Okay, you get past that. Then you get to the meat. Well, it can't be highly processed meat, right? It should be whole muscle. It's not, you want to get away from that, the lunch meat, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to mention any names, but like the chains that are doing processed meat. So it should be whole muscle, meaning it should be you buy the chicken or whatever it is, you buy you buy that cut of meat, tenderloin, for example. You get that big piece of tenderloin, and then you're cutting it from that muscle. Or the same thing with the salmon, you're getting the fillet, or the tuna, you're getting the belly. So it's one piece of meat, so that there's no processing in that. So, and then you're going to season it with whatever, and then you put it on the sandwich, and away we go. And now you have essentially a clean sandwich, right? As much as possible. And that's the standard you want to get to.
And how many items how many items do you have on your menu?
Oh, geez.
I mean, I've seen your menu, I've been to your restaurants,
Right.
but I'm saying, because I think that such an interesting point is the customer perception, which is, how much does a customer actually know it's clean? As in yours, no, we're not going to name names,
right.
but versus competitors that also say they're clean. You know, I don't want to insult people by going claim or anything like that, even though I've just done that. But it's like how much enlightenment education does the customer have? Does the customer require? So like I said, how many items do you have on your menu to start with?
Right. So I don't know how many offhand. I don't know. I've never counted, but it's grown a lot.
It's a big menu.
It's a big menu.
It's a big menu.
There's a reason for that. But I'll get to that. Let me first answer your question. What was your question?
So it's about the guest perception. It's
how many people know that it's clean?
Yeah, it's
so
that
I just
kind
started
of psychological side to the guest.
Got it. So I just started that. So I just started now branding a couple months ago, starting to enlighten people about what we're about. I can talk to someone one-on-one in the restaurant because I'm in the restaurants every day. But you want to get past that one-on-one, right? Because I'll talk to 10 people, 15 people a day, telling them what we do, right? But if I can promote that, if I can build a brand around that and promote it on social media, then I can hit thousands. I can, so it's very important to do that, because what you have to own as a restaurant guy is you have to own space between the ears of the customer, right? So that when he thinks of where he wants to eat, Boga is a place that you want to be one of his 3 or 4 choices, right? So it's so important. So that we have to differentiate ourselves from the other healthy competitors. And like I said to you at the beginning of the podcast, you can't really be healthy if you're not clean. So our goal is to get to clean, not as quickly as possible, but the end goal is to be there. We're almost there. I mean, we're maybe 4 or 5 products away from or ingredients from being at the end of the road of clean food, no compromise. And why I have a diverse menu is because in Dubai, you have essentially 5 demographics. You have the locals, you have the Arab expats, you have the Eastern Europeans, you have the Westerners, and you have the Asians. And each of those groups eat different product. And what I wanted is to be your everyday go-to.
Yeah.
Okay? Because when I think about it, I say, how can I, every restaurant guy says, well, how can I double my sales?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's a no-brainer. and the easiest, everybody will come with a story. Oh, it's marketing, it's this, it's that, it's this, you do this. No. The easiest way to double my sales is to have the guests come back tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And if I focus on bringing the guests back tomorrow, I've doubled my sales. That's the way I look at it. So that means, what do I have to do? It means it has to be craveable. It has to be delicious. It has to be relevant to that person. It has to be affordable. It can't be, where the price cannot be a barrier. Okay? It has to be craveable. It has to be, he has to eat the food and not feel inflammation in his stomach, right? He has to eat the food and not feel like he wants to sleep 2 hours after he ate the food, right? Where it gives him a carbohydrate bomb or a high glycemic, a boost in the glycemic index, right? So those are the things that when I look at creating menu items, that those, at the end, as a structure, as an infrastructure, it has to have those things. And then the icing on the cake is that you have to try and make it craveable. And if you do that, if you make it craveable and you make it clean and you make it priced right, you increase the likelihood on the menu side of the guest returning. And then, the environment inside the restaurant has to be non-offensive, in my mind, right? I don't want loud music because, if it's too loud, then the customer, I want the customer to come back the next day. So, I look at the menu, I look at the environment that the guest sits in, and that's what we do. So that's where I'm headed.
So with making everything on site, so the one thing that very few people can ever see, even if a restaurant has an open kitchen, very few people can actually go and stand and watch prep. Do you know what I mean? And everything like that. So I would ask, what is going on back of house in Boga to guarantee this? Because you are making I would say you're making quite a big statement, because we can't. So I will ask you this, because you talked me through the how you make mayonnaise, and there's a difference between clean mayonnaise and the mayonnaise that other venues that are healthy venues are using.
Yep.
But so with this amount of menu items, how is the back of house structured?
So basically, the guys in the back are just making the sauces, making the dressings, making the yogurt, making the cheese, making the bread. That's all they do. And that goes from the time we wake up, from the time we open the door to the time we close the door.
What time are they in the morning?
Everybody starts a half an hour before we open up, so from 7:30, and they don't leave till 2:30 in the morning. So it's constant. It's constant.
And there's no deliveries then?
No, we do deliveries.
No. You're not having any products delivered in.
No,
you're having dry stuff.
Avocados come in every day.
Yeah.
Vegetables come in every day.
Yeah.
Tuna and salmon come in every day. Dry goods come in as needed, paper product as needed.
Yeah.
But basically, we get daily deliveries.
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah. First of all, we don't have the space. They have to be daily.
Yeah.
And it ensures freshness. There's no central kitchen. Because doing central kitchen, you chase a rabbit that you can never catch with a central kitchen, because you're always feeding, what happens in a central kitchen is your food ends up not being fresh.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
yeah.
It starts fresh when you have 2 or 3 restaurants and you have the central kitchen. Then you start to expand, and you lose freshness.
Yeah.
Because instead of hiring that extra guy to chop the lettuce, you chop the lettuce the day before. And then, instead of, you end up with another truck to make the delivery as you expand, another 2 drivers, and you can never, you end up at the end far away from the way you started, far away from your mission, far away from your brand essence, far away from what got you excited, what made you crazy, what you had so much passion about from the beginning. So I created an infrastructure that we are forced to do it clean, to do small batch, to do it daily. Mm-hmm. And so the guests can never say to me, oh, it wasn't fresh. No, not possible. We also, from a bacteria standpoint, so I have a laboratory that comes and takes samples of our food in 3 restaurants every month. Mm-hmm. And it's basically random.
Yeah.
So, and we check for E. coli, Salmonella, Staphylococcus, Bacillus, and knock on wood. I don't know where the wood is, but knock on wood, we've had a perfect score in 3 restaurants since we've been using the laboratory, because you should test for that. It's not required by municipality, but because I make everything, I test. So, and small batch, fresh, you're good.
No, and I think that, like I say, I've eaten in Boga, and it's one of the things that always makes me think is when I've had people on the podcast and we talk about supplements and protein powders and protein bars and everything like this, and it's about how something that is essentially very, very good for you should essentially taste bland and quite bad. And the question is the perception like I spoke about earlier on, the perception in the guest's mind, which is how much is food changing, because it's my view on this, where we spoke, I saw you at the weekend, we spoke about this, right? I think alcohol is game over. Not as in next year there's no more alcohol, but I do think that people are going to drink less and less and less and less and less. People are getting more and more and more and more health conscious. They're more visually enticed by it. There's a fantastic phrase I use at the moment is I don't think there's ever going to be another campaign that promotes smoking, But as I've said before, are we going to move into a phase that in 10 years, if you buy a bag of sugar in a supermarket, will it have rotten teeth on the back? Because you can't buy a pack of cigarettes without seeing damaged lungs. And I'm fascinated about the guest's perspective. And when you go into Boga and you eat, it's really tasty. And I think it's very interesting how you're managing to achieve all that flavor when, like you said early on, making a piece of lettuce craveable. It's what goes into the Boga makeup of the food and everything that's getting that flavor.
Okay, that's the simplest question.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So once you put a preservative in the food, you dull the taste. So if you pasteurize an egg, for example, you homogenize a dairy product, you kill the taste. Once you put a preservative in a product, you kill the taste. So you take for example, a good analogy is, if you remember the old TVs, the color TVs, they were good, but today they're like bright and sharp and they're amazing, right? It's like, oh, give me that TV. It's not that anybody watches TV anymore, but when you went in the old days,
when they're watching Netflix on their television,
right there we go.
They're 4K, 8K.
So it's the same thing. So if you make it fresh, right, and that's the test of when you feel that it's full of flavor, that tells you right then and there that they're making everything from scratch. Because, if I take a basil leaf and I pick it and I put it in and I make pesto sauce out of it, or I put it in your sandwich, you are going to taste that pesto. And if you take the same sauce that comes out of a bottle, it's not going to taste the same. It's not going to have the same level of flavor. So making it from scratch maximizes flavor, maximizes craveability. Craveability is really the key, and price are the key drivers to have that guest, to double your business, to have that guest come back tomorrow. And around, I would say 20-25% of our guests come to Boga 5 to 7 times a week.
So what are you looking now? Where are you taking this? Where is Boga going?
Oh, good question.
Yeah.
So, so Boga. So a couple things. So I'm on the branding side. I'm looking at, If I look at the Dubai as 20 restaurants, right? We have to own the market first. So if I look at Dubai as being 20 restaurants, I'm looking at probably 4 or 5 flagships where I would put Pilates Reformer Studios inside because I believe that that's, clarity of food, clarity of movement, is clarity of living, clarity of life. I believe in that. That's not for everybody, but that's for your core. And you want those options as people go on that journey, right? The food journey, or I want to lose 5 kilos, or whatever. That journey, both of them are linked together. And I believe that food and movement equals clarity of life. But so that's on the branding side. The other thing I'd like to do is to put mechanics to the assembly of it, because what I really want to show is the food being made. I want you to see how we make the yogurt, how we make the cream cheese, how we make the bread, the sauces, the dressings. That's what the guest should see, right? Not the assembly of it. Because really nobody pays attention to it. You see the people back there making the food, but nobody really pays attention. But if I took that and moved that in the back and put the actual prep work in the front or to the side behind glass, that's much more interesting, right? That's something that reinforces the brand. And if I put mechanics and robotics to it, then I can reduce labor cost. When I reduce labor costs, I can reduce pricing. When I reduce pricing, I keep it premium, yet accessible. And that's really what I want to do. Because ultimately, my crazy idea, what I have like super passion for, is changing the way the world eats.
Yeah.
Okay? And if you're serious about changing the way the world eats, then you need to feel premium, but accessible. So that's, I'm on that journey of doing the app, doing the Flow by Boga, putting those, building the brand. And, it's a Dubai brand. Although we started in Saudi, the courts told me that I wasn't the owner.
That's another podcast.
That's another podcast. But I wasn't the owner. Yeah. So really Dubai, and where I trademarked Boga Superfoods was in Dubai, was in the UAE.
Where did you get the name from?
So I have a friend, Shannon Mitchell. When we were researching a name to open Boga, he did some. There was a tribe in the Amazon rainforest called the Desenia tribe, and when they eat to be in balance. So not too full, not too empty, right? Just in the right level.
Yeah, I struggle with that. I'm always too full.
Okay. So they say that when they're in balance,
they're
in a state of Boga. So when he told me that, I was like, oh man, I have to trademark that. So like Boga, and then you need a descriptor, which was Superfoods. So that's it. That's how it happened.
So essentially Boga means
And
balance.
then I opened in the UAE. I trademarked in the UAE first. I gave power of attorney to a guy in Saudi Arabia to trademark it in Saudi. And he put it in his name through the power of attorney in the garbage, But anyways, the Saudi government awarded me back the trademark.
Which is good.
Yeah, which is good.
It's a good
so
thing.
I'm trademarked from Canada, of course. I had to trademark there, but from basically from Morocco to Bahrain.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're almost at the end.
Yep.
Fascinating. Because also I think, nearly done it myself. I think that scaling restaurant brands and I don't want to, Boga's not QSR, do you know what I mean? But you come from almost that back, like you said, McDonald's is a big inspiration to you and everything like this. I think that the challenge is always about the consistency. Do you know what I mean? It's about the fact that you go to McDonald's in the UK, the hamburger needs to taste exactly the same as when you go to McDonald's in Dubai. Do you know what I mean? And they do manage to achieve it, but God only knows what's in the food in order to do that.
Right.
I think that I wanted to come back to one thing you said earlier, which was when you were 25 years ago, you're on medications, you're taking these different pills and potions and everything that are being prescribed to you by a doctor, but then you make the choice to become vegan, go back, and they take you off. I wanted to ask you, when you said that, did they say anything to you about, the fact that this is food? And it does feed into that larger scope that...
You mean the doctor?
Yeah, I'm talking about, and I get very passionate about this, about how much the food industry is making us, I was going to say, making us sick. Right. Do you know what I mean? And I know it also...
Another podcast.
I know it also, it is going to probably be another podcast.
Yeah.
But I know that it feeds into the fact that it's up to us what we eat. But we are being very well manipulated by
right. So if you think about it, in a grocery store, right, it's the vegetables and the fresh meat. Everything else is in a jar or in a can or in a bag, and that means it's processed. It's it's there. Think about when you go to get a loaf of bread. Simple little thing like a loaf of bread. And the first thing you do is you squeeze the bread to see, is it fresh? Yeah. And if it squeezes soft, it goes in your cart.
Yeah.
And if it's hard, it stays on the shelf.
Yeah.
So you would think that if you're a bread guy, you have to make sure that it's soft. So the question now is, how do you make it soft? And so the bread guy, figures out, goes to and there's some kind of additive that you can put in there to make sure that it's soft and squishy and feels fresh. And that, you want that bread to be able to last 3-4 days on the shelf, 5 days, whatever you want it to be. So all our food's that way. And I don't want to kind of go down. I just want to do my thing.
Yeah, I'm not trying to take you there either, but
yeah, that's what I'm against.
Yeah,
right?
you have this in-depth knowledge to the point where you are spending money, creating. It's not easy. Do you know what I mean? They're big investments and they take a lot of work. And to run restaurants is lots of effort, lots of commitment, lots of hours. Profit margins are not what people think they are. Do you know what I mean? They think when you own a restaurant, it's just all woo, when really it's
glitz
the polar opposite. Yeah. But you're definitely kind of on a mission. Do you know what I mean?
I'm absolutely on a mission.
And I always think like this, the things that I've always learned so much from people in that chair that are in this field is just this, you guys, like I said, with the supplements people that I speak to, where you have this inner knowledge that I don't have about how effed up the whole industry actually is. And it's how deluded we are. I'm happy to say it. You don't have to agree. I'm not saying something where you agree and then it becomes your statement. Not at all. But I just think it's like, how much does the consumer need a smack in the face and be like, look at what's going on? I'm probably going to leave this conversation, go to the supermarket and buy a squidgy bread that's full of God knows what and eat it. But
or a white chicken.
Or a white chicken that's the same size as all the other chickens, or a very nice polished green apple,
Exactly.
But it's just that kind of thing. It's like, how much do we need to wake up and understand that we're being
manipulated?
Yes.
Yeah, that's another podcast.
Okay, fair enough.
But the idea, like what I find, like we weigh everything, like on a sandwich.
Yeah.
Right? We weigh the meat that goes in a bowl. We weigh the cauliflower that goes into the bowl. We weigh the rice. We weigh the lettuce. Everything gets weighed, right? And I think that consistency, it should be you embrace the inconsistency, right?
Yeah, you said this earlier on.
Is really being consistent. So Not all, we don't like all our juice gets bottled, for example. It's just, if the juice is delicious and sweet, we bottle it, and sometimes it isn't, and then we don't bottle it. We just don't have any. We may not have orange juice, for example. You have to embrace the inconsistency in order for it to be consistent.
I have one last thing, which is, and this again is my opinion, but do you think we've got the term comfort food the wrong way around? So people look at comfort food as almost your cheat day is comfort food.
Right.
But essentially all that does is make you feel very uncomfortable.
Yeah, right.
Like you said, balance.
Yeah.
Like I eat comfort food for about 4 hours afterwards. I'm really uncomfortable.
Right.
Well, it might be comfort going in, but I've just thought of that, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's right.
That it's actually the wrong way around. Where you eat something very healthy for you, you don't get the big carb hit.
But that comfort food is really craveable food.
Yeah.
Right? So the idea is make it craveable, but make it clean
100%.
so that you don't have that inflammation in your stomach, or you don't feel like falling asleep after 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we're
interesting
about.
stuff.
Yeah. No, you got it.
Well, look, this has been great. I've really
It's been
enjoyed
awesome.
it.
So I as well.
I thank you for coming in. Like I ask all Tasty Humans guests, all of your experience, everything you've had in life, if you could give one message, say one thing, one line, what would that be?
Okay, as an entrepreneur?
Whatever.
Okay, so
as a human being.
I'll first say have passion for your crazy idea. Mm-hmm. Set the direction of where you're going. Just set that direction so that you can take a step or two or 5 steps a day or whatever it is. You're on that journey, but you're in the right direction. And then think outside the box or embrace the fear. You have to embrace the fear. Living inside the box, you don't change the world. You have to enjoy, you have to learn to embrace the fear. So have passion for your crazy idea, set the direction, and embrace the fear.
Fantastic. Joe, thank you so much for coming down. I wish you all the best, and we'll do this again in a few months where we will have the conversation about the food industry, because I think that's one to get into.
We're going to get in trouble.
Yeah, well,
all right.
Trouble's outside the box is where you find trouble.
Right, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So let's go find it.
Right. There we go.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.